Taf Mem Aleph Amud Aleph, right at the top, the two dots right at the top. We had previously a Maisa with Rav Zera questioning Rav Avo, not sure of what the minhag of Rav Avo was. The Gemara is going to continue on with another case where also Rav Zera was not sure of what the minhag of what Rav Avo was. So he said he saw Rav Avo when he was about to bathe in a river, that he covered his Malkam Erva with his hand. But he said, I'm not sure. He was not sure if he touched or not. So Gemara says, what's the shayla? Pshita d'loi naga? Of course he did not touch. It's not your realizer. If a person urinates and he's oiches in the Malkam Erva, it can cause oitzos zer levatola, and it's like he brings a mabel to the world because that was the avera of the Dora mabel. So obviously he was not negay, he didn't touch the Malkam Erva. Amar Abai, no. There is a reason to be unsure. There is a reason to question it because in a place where a person has fear, then we see in another context that even though a person would have a certain desire to do things, but if he is in a place where he's afraid or he's under pressure for some other reasons, he'll refrain. Here also, if he's in the river and he's afraid of the river, of the danger of bathing the river, it will not lead him, it will not lead him to thoughts of avera. So perhaps under these circumstances, it would be mutter even to be negeya. Where do we see this case where by leshes, by troops, which are marauders, that we see over there, that where otherwise would be chayshesh in a makam of sakana, or a makom of where they're under pressure and fear that they will not? This not. Well, if you have troops that come into the city to pillage, and b'shal shalom, if there's no war going on, it's shal shalom, so there's just coming in to pillage. Chavias psuchayis asuras. If they're open barrels of wine, those barrels of wine is asur. We treat it like yain nesach because we're afraid that the Yavdei Avodah Zarah would come in and they would be menasach that wine for their Avodah Zarah. So it has a din of yain nesach. That's if the barrels are open. But sasuma is mutaris. But if they're sealed barrels, then it's mutar, because we see the fact that they're closed, that they're sealed. Obviously, they did not take from the wine and pour it, and they were not menasach for the Avodah Zarah. And as the Mephoshim speak out, since we're dealing with troops and people who are coming in to pillage, they wouldn't be careful to close back the barrels. They wouldn't care about closing the barrels. If the barrels are sealed, that means that they never were opened, that they did not open it. But if they're open barrels, then we are chayshesh, we're afraid that they were menasach. The Shas Melchama, however, at the time of a Melchama, when there's a war going on, we say even the open barrels are mutter, because they're so preoccupied and nervous and worried due to the war, they're not going to now take the time to be menasech the wine for Avodah Zarah. Alma came into be under situations, circumstances of fear, they will not be menasech. Achanama came into boys here also because there's the fear of the river, bathing in a rushing river. So perhaps it will say that it will not lead to here, and therefore there's even reason to therefore question that perhaps he was naga. So the fear of the rushing river. So that's the question. That's why he was uncertain. Well, how can this be in any event? Aside from the issue of naga or loy naga, there is another issue over here, that how can he even cover the makam ha'erva? If he covers the makam ha'erva, it's like he's kaifer with the bris. Why? Because he shows that he's embarrassed of the bris. He's embarrassed to have a bris milah, so he's like kaifer b'ritza shalom avinu. So therefore, in any event, how could he cover the mokum hamila? That would be considered to be that he is disgracing the mokum hamila, and therefore, in any event, how can it be covered? More answers like kasha. There's a difference if he's going down to the river or he's coming up from the river. If he is coming up from the river and he's facing the people, so it's a minute tznius to cover himself. So there we say it would be appropriate. Then it's appropriate to cover himself when he's going down into the river where there's nobody around, where there's nobody watching over there. That's when we say if he covers the mokum hamila, it looks like he's boish, looks like he's embarrassed, and it's a kilo kaifer b'risa shalom vino. Kiha, like we see from the following. The Rava Shachim. Rava used to bend down. He bent down, and therefore he covered himself. He covered himself in that manner. So, as the Rishash and other Meforshim speak out, apparently Rava did not accept this chiluk of the bisusa de nahara, and that he's afraid. So he therefore was not negay with his hands. He did not cover with his hands, and he was not negeya, because l'chayra he held that would be an isur, that it's kol ha'echaz b'ama mashkil mevi mavaloilam. And however, and all the Rava also did not accept this chiluk, whether he's facing the people or not facing the people, because Rava was shachi. He would bend down to cover himself, whether he was going down to the river, coming up, or going down. It made no difference. So l'chayra, he held that just by bending down, that's not being mevayish the mokum hamila. Covering would be, but bending down l'chayra would not be a problem. Rav Zera Zakif. Rav Zera was Zakif. Rav Zera stood, he did not cover himself at all. He held l'chayra that it would be considered being mevayish the mokum hamila, whether he covered or whether he bent down. So therefore he was Zakif. Rabbanan de Beravashi. Now this is where we find this chilik between going down and coming up. Rabbanan de Beravashi kikon nachse Zakif. When they went down and there was no people around, so it's not a question of tznius, they stood straight. They did not cover the mokum hamila, kikosalki, but when they came up from the river and now they were coming up from the river and facing the people, so it's a minute tznius, kisal shachi, they bent down to cover the mokum hamila. Rabbi Zera Hava ka mishtamet mid Rabbi Yehuda. He tried to avoid Rabbi Yehuda, the boy Lamesach Lared Yisrael, because Rabbi Zera wanted to go to Eretz Yisrael, and Rabbi Yehuda was opposed to going to Eretz Yisrael. Why is that? Why was Rabbi Yehuda opposed? The Amar Rabbi Yehuda kol ha'olam miBavel Eretz Yisrael. He says anyone who goes from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael is over an essay. We were placed in Golos and Bavel, and we're supposed to remain there until the Geula. What's the Makor? In Emor, it says the Pasuk in Yirmiyah, Bavel Yavo V'Sham Yu, that they have to remain there. Meaning, one could learn the Pasuk, and L'chayr Rav Zera learned the Pasuk, that it's not referring to Klal Yisrael. It's referring to the Kalim of the Beis HaMikdash, that the Kalim of the Beis HaMikdash were brought down to Bavel, and they'll be there and they'll remain there until the Rabbeinu Shalom, until the Geula, and now he takes them and restores them. But Rabbi Yehuda learned it as referring to the nation, that the nation has to remain in Bavel until the Geula. So therefore he avoided him, but before he left Eretz Yisrael, Omar, he said, Ezel v'eshem milsa v'esi. Let me hear some divrei Torah from him, and hear something from him, then I'll go to Eretz Yisrael. So he said, let me go, and then I'll go to Eretz Yisrael. He found him that he was in the bathhouse, and he overheard him, and he told his assistant to Shamas, he said, bring for me the detergent, the Neser, the detergent to the soap to wash myself, and a makom. He's told the people, open your mouths, and let the hot water and the steam from the Beis HaMercha should enter your body. And drink warm water, even if that warm water is the warm water from the bathhouse. Omar, he said, if only to hear this, it would be enough, it would be sufficient even to hear these choshev words. So what is so chashuv about what he said? Bishlom Heviu Neser Heviu Masrek. What's the chiddush over here? Kamash Malan Dvorim Shalchol Mutulam Lashon HaKodesh. The chiddush is, you might have thought to speak Lashon HaKodesh in a bathhouse is also just like speaking Divrei Torah is also. So Kamash Malan, that since they're Divrei Chol, they're mundane matters, one can say it even in a bathhouse, even in Lashon HaKodesh. That's the chiddush. Pisku p'mayich chovav have lo. Open your mouths and let the steam enter your body. What's the chiddush? Nami kiddush Shmuel. The Omar Shmuel have lo mapek hevel. The hevel, the steam that comes into the body, will now cause the body to sweat out and to now release the zayah that's in the body. So that is part of the cleaning process to let the steam in, and it will allows the person, it's like a sauna and a steam bath, and let the person then sweat out all the impurities from his body. But what is the maila? What is the benefit of drinking this warm water? Like we learned in the Bryce. If a person ate, he ate a meal, but he didn't drink, it's dangerous for him, it's like he ate dam. That's the beginning of what will be a problem, an ailment of the intestines. If he ate and did not walk dalet amas after eating, if he ate and just went to sleep, the food, it starts to rot inside. And that is the beginning of reach ra, of the bad breath. A person has to go to the bathroom. He has to relieve himself. And he doesn't, and he eats. It's like an oven that's filled with ashes, so it's already dirty. It has the ashes from previous use. And now he fires it up and he heats it up to cook in that or bake in that oven. So he's now baking in an oven that has ashes from previous use, and it's whatever he's baking over there is going to get all dirty from all of those ashes. That is the beginning of body odor. He'll sweat frequently, and that's the beginning of body odor. If he bathed in warm water, but he did not drink warm water, it's like an oven that was fired up from the outside, but not from the inside. Now, to properly use an oven, it has to have, the heat source has to be from the inside. You have to put the fuel, the coals on the inside of it. That gets it very hot, and now you can use it properly. If you put the coals on the outside, it's not going to heat up properly. You're not going to be able to bake properly. Here also, you're washing only from the outside, not the inside. It's not going to have the real benefit of bathing. If he bathed in warm water, but he did not rinse himself afterwards in cold water, it's like if he took iron and he now put it and he smelted it in the fire, so heat up in the fire, and afterwards he did not temper it with the cold water. In order to properly fabricate it, it has to be now put into the smelter to remove the impurities, and then be tempered, put in cold water to harden it. So here also, he didn't have now the full benefit of the bathing if he doesn't rinse afterwards in cold water. If he bathed, but he did not anoint himself with oil, it's like water that's on the top of a barrel that doesn't penetrate. Here also, to get the full benefit of the bathing, he has to afterwards anoint himself with oil, and that allows the water and the cleanser to penetrate deep into the body. Coming back, returning now into the Hilchos Shabbos, Moiliar Hagorf. If he has a moiliar that was removed from the coals. So the way Rashi learns the moiliar is, the way the girsa that Rashi has and we have, is that the moiliar is a type of an urn that has two compartments. One compartment has the water, and alongside of it is a compartment that has the coals. So therefore, this moiliar keeps and retains the heat. Now, however, the moiliar is not so hot to increase the heat of the water once it's garvakotum. So therefore, moiliar hagorov, if the coals are removed, then you can keep the water over there and sheisim mana b'Shabbos. You can drink the water on Shabbos. If the coals are removed, then you can drink the water on Shabbos. But antichi, we'll see in the Gemara what antichi is. Antichi af b'shegrufa, but antichi has more heat, and therefore even the water that remains there, the water level, the heat level will increase. Ein shoysim imenu, you cannot leave it there and drink from it on Shabbos. So if we are going with the mahalach that shehiyah, that leaving things on the kira, is also unless it's garva kaltum, then this would be readily understandable. That the maliyar, it's mutter if it's garva kaltum. But if we go like Hananya that says for shehiyah, it doesn't. You don't need garva kaltum. You can leave things on the kira even if it's not garva kaltum. So the problem is over here, why does the maliyar have to be garva kaltum? If we're going according to Hananya, this is a form of shehiyah. You're leaving the water in the urn over there, and according to Hananya, you can leave something in the kira even if it's not garfa kata. Garufa ketuma is only a requirement for chazora, but not for shehiyah. So why is this different? There's two basic approaches in the Meforshim. One approach is, in Hanami there's no difference, but we are talking over here with water that did not reach the level kemachal ben drusoy. So it was not hot enough before Shabbos, and therefore even Hanani, who permits shehiyah, it's only if the food is reached the level kemachal ben drusoy. The other approach is that what Hananya is talking about is by akira, shehira by akira, but hatzmona, to insulate, even he would agree that it has to be garvakotum. Now here, since the moliyar, it has the water and the coals side by side, then it is a form of hatmona, could be viewed as a form of hatmona, and therefore even Hanani would agree that it has to be garvakotum. Zog the Gemara, how is a moiliyar made? What's the difference between a moiliyar and an antichi? The way Rashi learns it, there are really two compartments side by side. The larger one has the water, and the smaller one alongside of it has the coals, which keep the water warm. Antichi, what is an antichi? Rabba Amar Bekiri. He says a bekiri, which means a bekiri like also two compartments. So really, the way Rashi is learning it, they're very similar to each other. They both have two compartments side by side, one with the water, one with the coals. But the difference with the antechi and why that is, even though it's grov, it's also to have it and leave it for Shabbos and drink the water. Because Rashi explains that is used during the whole week. The coals are there during the whole week, and the wall that separates the water and the coals is a thick wall. So that wall that separates the two gets very, very hot. And therefore, even if you remove the coals, the water that will remain in the antichi will be moisiv hevel. It will increase, the heat level will be increased. So that's considered a davar ha-moisiv hevel, where the heat level will increase, and therefore even if you remove the coals, it's also on Shabbos. Whereas the moiliyar, it doesn't have such a thick wall. The coals are not there the entire week. It's not so hot, so it's not moisiv hevel. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Amar Beidudi. He says it's a Beidudi. No, what it is that it has two bottoms. So there's one bottom, the coals are on the bottom, and the water's on the top. It's not side by side, so the heat level is more than the moiliyar, but it's less than the bekiri. It will be a kind of middle level. So man damar beidudi, the one who says is beidudi, calls Shekain bekiri. Certainly bekiri would be asur because the heat level is even stronger over there. Man damar bekiri, however, the one who says bekiri, that's where we say it's asur, where it's the coals are on the side of the water. Aval Beidudi loy, but Beidudi would not be, that level of heat is not as intense, and that would be mutter, it's not also. Tanya Kavasi, the Rav Nachman, that a riot, where Rav Nachman said, that he said it's where there is a bottom, where the coals are on the bottom. Antichi afal pisha grufa v'katuma, even if it's garutum, ain't shaisim menu, you cannot drink from the water, you cannot have it there on Shabbos. The bottom of it heats it up. So you see clearly, like Rav Nachman, that it is where there's a bottom. The Beikiri is something, is what we call over there, is Beidudi. That Antichi is a Beidudi, that it has the coals on the bottom, and it's not the way Rambam says Beikiri.